So, how do we feel today? Such an excitement. The party was good yesterday, right? It's super happy to have you over here, Martin.
Thank you for inviting me.
How do you pitch yourself? Who are you? Like, when you meet someone and then they're like, okay, Martin, what do you do? And then you're like...
That's a really good question. It's really hard to define oneself. Like, the first investor in Pipedrive was like 5 years ago or so. Went to the television in Estonia, and in the morning show, someone asked him, "What should we write under your name?" It's like, I don't know, put a human being if you want. It's really hard. I mean, I would say I was just. If you're asking professionally or asking personally, that depends as well. I mean, there's so many labels that people can have these days.
But you're not answering the question.
I am not. Yeah, I'm investor, co-founder of Pipedrive, professionally, and with design background, with coding background. That's my kind of professional title.
So our topic is engineer to founder to angel. So you started out as a co-founder of Pipedrive, being designer and a front-end developer, right? So. Yeah.
I was doing other stuff as well, well before Pipedrive. But yeah, my background is design and front-end. So, but from there on, it kind of went
downhill.
Downhill, yeah. So I went to do back-end stuff as well. Infrastructure, servers, everything we needed to do on our own because we had the team of 5 co-founders and then a couple of first employees as well. But it was only us, and we needed to kind of scale the servers and build things up from ground up. So yeah, much of the things were needed to be in-house. We couldn't hire people early on, too many.
As you may guess, he's a typical Estonian who is pretty shy. But usually designers don't end up being CTOs of the company, right? How did that transition happen? Oh, I like to build designs, but then I can lead the team and understand the whole architecture and the stack and having an opinion about red teaming and that sort of thing. How do you find, let's have it a bit broader, like how you define that this is the stuff the challenge I will pick up?
I think it comes from what the form or function is with any given product. If you start designing something, you need to think about what can be done with the tool that you're building. So it's always about looks, but it's often than not when it comes to web apps, is that how it looks, it has to define how the back end is in some shape or form at least. So it's all kind of one thing. So whether you're just looking at the face of it, or you're going down deeper and down to the server level, it's all kind of, it has to support the end goal, what the app does. So for me, it's all design. I mean, ultimately what the person who clicks the button feels like, that should be all thought through down until the database.
So it's like you started to scratch the surface and then you ended up being deep.
Yeah. If you click a button, it's not fast enough. Then you go deeper. So why is it not fast enough? So there's probably too many requests happening. Okay, so you go deeper and then you see that, oh, okay, the database query is actually a bit slow. So you fix that and you come back to the surface and then you click again. It's like fast. Then that's all part of design, right?
Sometimes that can escalate and become an over engineering.
Yep, that is true. That you need to watch out for. So that is one thing that actually is with Pipedrive, is that we started doing things on our own, really kind of scrappily, kind of put something together quickly and make it happen. And we saw that it's actually working and people are actually using it, and then they have like kind of they see value in it. And of course you can't keep on going like that for too long. Ultimately we ended up hiring team of designers, team of back-end engineers, team of front-end engineers, team of infrastructure guys, So it kind of all exploded in that sense. So my role was kind of splitting in half. Like, okay, so now we have designers. Now you should not do design anymore. Okay, fine. So ultimately, you're left with the architectural decisions, which is the CTO role. That's kind of how it went from design to front end to back end to. I mean, the only thing that was left for me was to kind of steer the direction of, okay, so we have these kinds of services and these kinds of architectural decisions and these technologies that we use.
So that's not your conscious decision that, okay, we will do that and then I will become CTO. Basically, you were like squeezed up.
Yeah,
your business cards were squeezed up the position level to the CTO.
Yeah, so you could say that. You could also say that I was fired from so many departments.
Okay.
I was pretty bad designer at some point because everyone was depending on some little icon somewhere. It's like, I can't handle it right now. You need to quit that.
Martin, you're doing great, but please on Monday do something else.
Yeah.
So, and now you have switched, and now you've become the angel investor, right? And what are you looking for in companies when you speak with them? And how the transition happened? So the first is, of course, how transition happened.
Well, the background is that I was the CTO for up until 2018 or so. And from there on, I had a couple of more roles in Pipedrive. I was looking at some product decisions. I was giving early feedback and stuff like that. But I took a conscious decision of taking time off from work. So I wasn't involved full time from there on. Spent some time with the family more than usual.
How many years you were at the Pipedrive at the time? 2018.
So we started in 2010.
So 8 years.
And I officially quit 2020. So at the 10th anniversary, I quit.
A decade.
A decade, yeah. It was 10 years.
And then you made a decision like it's time. It was conscious decision. You were not kicked out at that time.
No, I wasn't. I wasn't kicked out. I kicked myself out.
Yeah, time to move on.
Yeah.
But that I think for some of people over here that might be how you figure out that it's time.
Yeah, you see that things are going the right direction, and people are full of energy and desire to build it and take it further. And it's like you just can't be on their way. You can't like go and micromanage any little decisions that need to happen and do the thing that they actually do and they really enjoy doing it. So it's really hard. So it's kind of like giving up your job. And there's a saying that the founder often, if things go well, they need to rehire themselves into a new position almost every year.
Rehiring yourself. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's how it happened. And so the question of like what do I look for in the companies, that is kind of it's kind of connected to that. So I think it often than not people say that it's the team that you have to look for, but it's not only the team. It's like what's kind of around the team. So there's the timing. You need to have the right people in the right place at the right time, but you also got to have luck. So with Pipedrive, we were really lucky because we had 3 guys who were out of work and were able to build web apps, and 2 guys who were having a need for a sales tool, but they had no one who could build it. So there was just luck that we kind of met at that time.
How you measure the luck potential with the team?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good question. So you can't really forecast that, but it's kind of like if you see that there's something more to it than just people who kind of have the idea of building something, that they actually have like kind of more structure behind it. They have like a background, and they have the right kind of vision going forward. So you just gotta have some experience to kind of measure these things. It's really hard. I mean, you can't predict future fights that might happen between founders and companies that kind of just blow off things. There's always things that happen. That's one thing, but I also look at the product. So like, what is it that they actually have built together as a team, as a founding team? Like they need to have something that you can touch and feel, and you kind of see the handwriting, like what comes out of it. Like if they work together, if these guys or the team works together, and like just you can touch it, you can feel it, and it kind of feels good, and it's in the right direction, then there's potential, definitely.
Mm. So what should startups, if they want to reach out to you, what are what are the topics you covered now that you like moving from engineer to founder and then to the angel? What are the things which you are always looking in the company?
I think the first thing I look at is like what the product does, like what the company does, like what's the end goal, what's the outcome, what gets better in the world if they do their stuff. Like something needs to go better. Like there's so many things. This is personal. I mean, I have nothing against any industry specifically, but there's some things that I don't care about that much. I don't look at, and there's some things that I definitely see value that kind of make things easier or make the world a better place. Basically, it's like a cliche saying, but I definitely look at that. So that's one topic.
You're not investing in advertising.
No. Probably some of it. I think like advertising is a really broad topic.
Do you have thesis for yourself, like investment thesis?
I do. I don't think I have written them down personally, but I do. That's one thing. Like the world needs to be a better place after the work is done, right? If something happens and something is being built, then people's lives will get better.
So that's your benchmark.
That's one thing definitely. But this is a really broad topic, so there's so many things that fall into this category. Almost anything, of course.
Have you had like moments where you're like, cool story, bro, but I'm not gonna go because it's not my thesis. Like, it's just
yeah. I mean, just a few examples. Like, there's one company in Estonia, Reverse Resources, that's building a tool for organizing textile fabric leftovers. Like there's so many leftovers in different factories, and there's not a tool or a marketplace where you could actually buy these resources and see which colors and fabrics are available in which places. And so there's a place, hopefully in the future, where you could actually buy them and build something on these leftovers. So that's a good example. It's a software tool, so there's definitely aspects that I am familiar with technically and so on, but yeah.
Yeah, the familiarity, I think that might be, is it sort of a curse for you? Because, well, you might be, because you know design and the whole art, the full stack, aren't you triggered to be involved in the team too much because you have an opinion? Like, I think so. You just like...
I don't think so. It's often the case that when we have talks about like whether to invest or not, or I always say that if you have any questions about tech stack or architecture or anything that I'm familiar with, I'm happy to help. And they often see it as a really good value add. But often than not many companies do actually ask things too much.
Give money and...
No, not that either. I mean, I tend to look at the feedback every month, some investor updates and things which they send. If there's any questions I can help with, this is often the case that I can go and ask them. It's like, hey, what about this thing? Do you need anything there? Rather than them coming to ask. So that's my experience.
Have you thought about doing something new, building something again?
So many people have asked, but not right now. Not right now. Yeah,
that's something it seems that you're pretty clear.
Yeah, it's pretty clear at the moment, yeah.
Why?
It's kind of like going down the rabbit hole. Once you start something, it's kind of taking all the energy.
You know where it's gonna end.
Exactly. So yeah, I kind of consciously taking time off right now. I don't know how long, but that's a conscious decision right now. Otherwise, it's just I know that all the energy goes in one direction, and so, I have a problem with kind of focusing my energy. So I'm kind of deliberately restricting myself from not kind of getting too involved in anything right now.
What would be some advice you would give to someone who is at, like, let's say 5 years at the company, things are starting to roll, and what would be the advice for them? What have been your mental journey to figure out what's next for me?
Yeah, I think it's really important to be mindful of what you want to become yourself, because you have all the options on the table. If things go well, you could choose which way you go in the company. You could end up being the person making the big decisions, and you can be running the company and so on. But you could also kind of decide other paths. So I think that's the most important thing. So you got to be happy with what you do, and you have plenty of options to choose from. But it needs to be a conscious decision. You can't kind of just let things go on their own. I mean, there's a certain amount of things that are in your control, of course, but you got to have some sort of a plan in your head where you want to end up.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective, that if things are not working, you know what you have to do. But if things are going, then you have multiple options, and now it's your decision about which door to open and which basically to close or leave it closed.
Exactly.
So okay, you're not building anything, so what's up next? What are you looking? You're into angel investing then?
Yeah, we are doing investments. There's
Who are we?
Yeah, so together with Martin Henk and Ragnar Sass, who are also the co-founders of Pipedrive, we're running Honey Badger Capital, which is a small investment firm.
Some people might know because there was a party.
Exactly. So yeah, that might be familiar. So Hillary Pops is the person who's running the show, and so we tend to invest together. So we've always looked at deals together, and so at some point we figured that we should kind of organize into some sort of a company, and so we did. So that's one thing we do. Also, together with Martin Henk and Ragnar Sass, we founded Metsik Loodus, which is in Estonian is a wild nature. So we started looking at different places in Estonia, in Estonian nature, where there are a lot of trees which some companies want to cut down, and often than not, they want to cut down everything that's possible. So we started buying these pots. Instead of cutting them down, we just kind of keep it as they are, and managing them in the long term. So this is a completely different thing. But again, it kind of goes to the save the world topic, right? I mean, you got to start somewhere.
I remember a meme I saw on Twitter. There was the guy from somewhere out of the car, and he was purchasing birds out of the cage and giving money for each bird, and then he took the bird and let it go. And you're like, oh, you want to cut that down? I will just pay you money and let's leave it there.
Yeah, I mean, you need to cut down the trees because, I mean, the fact is that wood is a really good material, right? But it's the case that you need to separate real kind of forests from what I would like to call fields of trees planted in order to harvest wood. I mean, it's a bit different. I mean, not every forest is actually meant to be cut down, right? It's a whole different topic, but
Martin can geek out about trees.
There's a really good book, by the way, by Peter Wolleben. He's a German guy who knows about trees a lot. So it's a separate topic. We don't want to go there too much.
I don't want to go there. So, is that an Estonian thing? Like we do angel investing, but we have like bunch of people under the brand, but it's not an investment fund, and being like shy.
Probably yes. Probably yes.
It's nothing big. We just invest a couple of millions here and there and some trees.
Yeah. So yeah,
it's I built a small CRM company and doing well.
Exactly. So yeah, we had the first celebration when we had 1,000 customers. Before that, we didn't have any parties whatsoever, and then we were like just having a dinner together. It's like, okay, so we have a bit of customers. It's good.
Awesome. The humbleness of Estonians is super. So, thank you, Martin.
Thank you.